Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Washington State Trooper here. I visit /X/ now and again to regale my tales. Here's an old one. Happened when I first joined the state police. New guy. Drive the shittiest Crown Vic, have the shittiest light bar. Overall shitty equipment in the vehicle. Doing a patrol near North Cascades National Park. Come across another trooper. Lights on. Vehicle pulled over. Nobody anywhere near. Flashlight comes out, start looking around. The road ends at a good 10-foot drop-off into the tree line. Shining my light across the trooper's vehicle, I ran the plate to get the officer's name. My light spans across the trees, then onto the head of the trooper. Radio crackles to life. Officer Anon, last heard on duty at 2300 hours. Anon, are you okay? The voice sounded a little mismatched. Yup, just checking on a dead deer. All right, have a good night, Anon. Return to my vehicle. Checking the recent calls list. Checking the phone. Officer Anon comes walking up the road with what later turned out to be a person wanted for dodging traffic tickets, then ran when pulled over. I step out. Anon, what about that deer? He looks confused as he puts the guy in the back seat. Deer? What deer? You know, the deer you were looking at down the roadside there. We both look over into the tree line and nobody around. Not even a dead deer.
Well, I'm not sure if it's spookiness, but our police dispatch office is in the same room as the detention office, which is also our coroner's office. The morgue is just a large closet we keep bodies in until the funeral home people come pick them up. So I kind of help out with stuff when I'm not busy in the small jail. So like 3 days ago, we get a 911 call. Dispatcher is a 19-year-old great kid, but really sensitive. I help with the bad calls. He's pretty shaken, so I pick up the line. Some chick is screaming about how she has to do it. I try to calm her down and ask her what she feels she's got to do and where she's at. She won't say where she's at, but she keeps saying she has to go into the river. I mean, we get threatening to off themselves calls a lot, usually just boo-hoo-hoo, my boyfriend left me, I'ma do it, give me attention type shit. This was different. She sounded scared, like she didn't want to do it. Anyhow, we ping her phone and it's showing that her location is in the middle of a bridge out in the middle of nowhere. She screams she doesn't want to do it and hangs up. Cops are dispatched and find nothing. We get the search and rescue boat on the river and search 3 miles in either direction and find nothing. We don't even know who she was or how she got out there. It's not impossible to walk to, but it's kind of out of the way and there's no car or anything out there. Having no evidence of a death and no missing persons reported, it got written off as a possible prank call. It was all a bit unsettling, honestly. There's some stories about the natives who used to live here worshiping at places where the mountains met the river. I once was hunting and found what appeared to be an altar, cairn, shrine-type circle thing. I lived here for a long time. There's a lot of disappearances and some Indian hocus-pocus type legends associated with a few areas.
Washington State Trooper here again. Here's an interesting story reassigned towards Darrington for a road construction duty. Get there at 2200. Nobody is around. The road crew had left for the night and won't be back till 6 a.m. I was told I was there to prevent idiots disturbing active construction. Radio dispatched to see if I should stay there or revert back to my original posted area and just work overtime. Dispatch comes back, telling me I should stay there as construction equipment does get stolen. Screw it, I'm getting overtime plus special duty pay. Turn off the vehicle, reach into my patrol bag and pull out a book. Read for about 45 minutes. I decided it's a good time to get out and stretch my legs. Description time. Road is getting a makeover from a double lane into a 4-lane. No streetlights around here. Really dark. Only light comes from the moon. Cool story, bro. Don't need my flashlight at all tonight. Wandering in and around the equipment. Just enjoying the cool air and the soothing quiet. Begin to see lights coming from down the road a ways. Wander back to my vehicle and flip the lights on in the traffic direction bar. Lights grow bigger and bigger. Can see it's some sort of a truck by the headlight spacing and the sound of the engine. Get back into my truck just to make it seem like I'm doing something. Only light is coming from the headlights behind me and my light bar. Lights reach the bumper of my truck. Don't hear the rumbling of the diesel engine anymore. Lights get to about the middle of the truck bed, waiting to see the cab and hear the engine. Lights pass. No sight of the cab or tail lights. Turn on my vehicle and pull out, switching the light bar on fully now and giving a few blasts to the whaler. Spend at least an hour scouring the next few miles of roadway for any sign of the truck. In the end, I parked with my bumper against one of the large dump trucks and waited out the rest of my shift. Nothing really scary, but certainly a note moment.
Witnessing a haunting in the 80s while serving as a police officer in New York City. First off, I want to say that my daughter put me up to this by saying that you guys apparently love this stuff. I hope you all don't mind the stock 80s skyline. Anyhow, I'm a retired officer who served in Manhattan from 1970 to 1999. Most of my calls were usually just break-ins and the occasional domestic violence dispute. However, there was one which still lingers with me today, and it gained a little notoriety with some people who I was with on dispatch. Most are still living, and it wouldn't surprise me if they've spoken about this very same tale more than once to their kids and grandkids. Mid-March, way too early in the morning, I'm on patrol when I get notified that there's a man who's called in screaming about demons haunting his home. Typical case of schizophrenia, I replied to the lady on the other line, as I told her I'd handle it. The line went dead just as a massive rainstorm started to kick up, as if to act as some sort of stark arbiter of what was to come. At that time, I just swore to myself and kicked on the cruiser's creaky wipers, entirely oblivious to what I was about to encounter. I arrived at a typical home on a typical street that had nothing out of the ordinary. I remember how miserable I was getting out of my cruiser and walking up to the door, being soaked by a sudden downpour in the middle of the night. This better be worth it, I said aloud to an audience of myself and the barrage of raindrops, which seemed to get progressively bigger and more dense with every step I took, as if to scream, "Just get back into your car, you dummy!" I should have listened to the rain's advice as I reached the door and gave a knock, followed by a ring of the doorbell after no one answered for a couple moments. It seemed like at least 5 minutes went by before a scrawny man, wearing a wife-beater that was stained with this weird shade of green, sheepishly greeted me. He was no taller than 5'2" and had a terrified look on his face as he led me down the hall and into his living room. Everything seemed overwhelmingly normal. His home was clean to my surprise, and he apparently had enough money to afford a huge Zenimax television in his living room, along with sculptures that seemed to be of African origin, authentic too. Probably would cost a fortune to a right buyer. As we reach the end of the hall, he points to something around the corner. Look here, just look, don't say nothing, just look," he said to me. There, right in front of me, I saw water, like gallons of water, running up his walls like a river. I was speechless. This started today, it's the newest thing that's been going on in this goddamn house. I distinctly remember him screaming out as he walked over to it and splashed some across the living room. "You see, I'm not making any of this up. This is real," he continued to scream. I stared at the sight, trying to come up with any rational explanation. The rain? Pipes burst? None of that made even the lick bit of sense. Water flows downhill with gravity. Pipes with some sort of structural weakness would be spraying everywhere. The man was screaming about some woman he knew, how she had cursed him, how he never should have met her, and that he wanted to just get rid of whatever this is. Suddenly, we both heard the voice of what sounded like a woman say, "What's that?" As we both turned around to see who had just spoken, to be met with nothing but the chairs and end table of the living room. "What the hell?" I remember saying aloud. Then the man stormed towards one of the rooms and opened a door ornamented with what looked like 3 roses, facing away from one another as he waved for me to follow along. I did so reluctantly. "This house has this stuff happening everywhere. I can't get no sleep, I can't get no peace," he was screaming, leading me through the kitchen, his feet banging the floorboards with every step. "Just make it go away." he said, a defeated look on his face as he suddenly turned around to face me. I greeted his disparaged demeanor with cluelessness. "I don't know what you want me to do," I finally said in return. After a minute of complete silence, I asked him, "Have you called a priest?" "Get out," he replied, pointing to the door. His face suddenly changed from distraught to enraged, almost bleeding from the mouth by how hard his teeth were clamped together. "Get out now," he screamed, once again pointing towards the door I came in through. "Okay, pal, I'm going," I said, motioning for him to calm down as I walked back through the living room and the front door that suddenly and violently slammed behind me. The rain had let up a little as I walked back down to my vehicle, checking behind me to see if he was looking out the window to see if I was really leaving. No one. "What the fuck?" I screamed aloud, getting back into my cruiser. I filed a report detailing everything that happened following my shift. Of course, that's not where it ended. 3 days go by and I'm back on patrol when I get the same call from dispatch about the same guy, living on the same street in the same house. If you ever had one of those goddamn-it moments, you could relate. I drive up to his house and park outside, walking up to the door. I scream his name this time, knocking violently. He then answers, the same horrified look on his face as before as he peeked his head out to see me. "That wasn't me last time, officer," he started. "It was her. She took control." "Who are you talking about?" I asked. He told me about a Roma lady he was dating who he had cheated on, and after finding out she left him and evidently put a curse on him and his home. "Hold on right here, okay?" I said to him as I gave one of my friends a call from a nearby payphone. He was an ordained priest in the area and probably the only guy awake who could help me with something like this. The call went as followed. "Priest, good evening, it's early. Is everything all right?" Me, "No, I have a guy." He called in and, "Gosh, it's a possession. It's a real possession. I don't know what to tell you other than this is stuff you only see in the movies." Priest, "Give me the address." Lucky for me, it was walking distance for him. The minute I saw him come around the corner was possibly the most relieved I've ever been in my entire life. His smile greeted me, accompanied by his thick-rimmed glasses. "Good evening, officer," he said as we shook hands. He was carrying a briefcase that apparently was full of exorcist's tools. The whole scenario felt like a movie, like something from Friedkin's The Exorcist. As a precaution and with the man's consent, I handcuffed him to the radiator on the first floor. He sheepishly nodded as I assured him he was in no legal trouble. Spiritual trouble, that was another story entirely. My friend told me to come inside and keep his body restrained in case he'd suddenly go ballistic. My friend starts reading from the Psalms, and suddenly this guy starts freaking out, screaming as if he had just been stabbed. You'd think after seeing water running up walls and hearing disembodied voices, this wouldn't faze me. But it was so incredibly fierce that I couldn't help but jump backwards. He started shaking, with gash wounds and scars beginning to form all over his body. His face was covered in sweat within seconds, and his gums were bleeding so profusely, I had to grab a couple paper towels from his kitchen to prevent it from dripping down onto his shirt and pants. During this time, the priest ignored the man's pleading for him to stop, which turned into excruciating moans. He continued reading through certain psalms, blessing him with prayers, and then poured holy water on his head. With a "Come out in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit," the shaking ceased entirely and the guy's body returned to normal. No more gashes, no more bleeding. "Thank God!" he screamed out as I took him out of the handcuffs. The whole house felt different. It was more peaceful and just welcoming. The man attempted to give us both hugs with a wide smile. That was the end of it. I filed the report the next day. Don't know if people still talk about it.
Washington State Trooper here. Posted a few from last time. Since then, bumped up to Sergeant Supervisor, patrolling near Bickerton. Half hour into shift, get a code 280. Suspicious person or prowler on a private property. Respond to that call since nothing else was happening. Roll up. Swing spotlight into the area the prowler was supposed to be on the property. Nothing. Roll up to the house and turn off the truck, just waiting to see if anything was around. Nothing so far. Decide to wait around for 15 more minutes, then report nothing around or happening. Watching the barn and horse area, notice an odd shadow towards the barn door. Swing my spotlight towards it and turn it on. Shadow was nothing, but the barn door was open. Report to dispatch a code 282. Door open or possible burglary, and the need for another officer to be dispatched. The officer is 20 minutes away. Continue, flashlight out, firearm retaining snap is unlatched, hand on firearm. Look around the barn door, shining my light inside. Step in. Hello, state troopers. Hear a rustling and the other barn door open and slam shut. Book it through the barn, through the door, and into the field. Shadow heading towards the woods at a quick pace. I'm struggling to keep up. One hand on my firearm, the other on my radio. 232 to dispatch. Foot pursuit heading north off property. 510. Shadow had reached the trees. Unholster firearm and swing flashlight up. No footprints, no broken branches, nothing. Step into the dense tree line and walk a few feet. Light shines across a pair of eyes in the distance watching me. I had an overwhelming uneasiness wash over me. Really unusual, as I've hunted in dense woods at night and never had the feeling that was happening now. Mild nope alarm going off. A couple more steps and I'll turn around and leave, I tell myself under my breath. With each step, flashlight on the pair of eyes and the safety of my firearm off, I advance. Finally, I'm about 25 feet from the pair of eyes. The nope alarm is going off at 11 by this point. Stop moving forward. Washington State Trooper, don't move, or you'll be fired upon, I stammered. Hear the crunch of vegetation and a branch as the pair of eyes moves forward. I scream at the top of my lungs, don't fucking move, Oregon, you'll be shot. One more step is taken. Knee-jerk response, I fire off one round. The eyes disappear with the crack of the bullet exiting the barrel. Keep silent and hold my breath to listen to my surroundings. Nothing but the sound of vegetation being stepped on as whatever it is runs away. Step backwards, keeping my eyes on the darkness beyond my flashlight. Finally make it out of the woods, 15 minutes walking backwards slowly. Turn around and make a mad dash toward the house. The farmer is out on the porch, shotgun in hand, and backup is rolling down the dirt road toward me. Explain the situation. The farmer had the same thing happen to him, that's why he called. Finally write up a report of a wild animal. Shots were fired. The animal was never found. It's been a while since that. But never again has something watching me frightened me so bad.
Back in 2012, we always had bonfires every night. I'm in the Marine Corps Reserves, so while I'm home, I work as an Ohio State Trooper. Anyways, a bunch of my buddies and I were having a bonfire. We got everyone at my house around 7 p.m., then loaded them up into our vehicles. One was a Chevy Suburban, a Jeep Wrangler, and a Ford 350. The spot where we have our bonfire was a mile back on my land. There's this dirt path we take down to the cabin. It starts out as going in between two fields, then through the woods, then dead ends at our cabin, which overlooks a creek that eventually dumps into the Scioto River. We had about 24 people packed into the 3 vehicles and shit. The Suburban is mine. So we set off. Driving through the woods wasn't a big deal. But as soon as we got to the area, I stepped out of my vehicle and could smell this god-awful smell. Death. It smelled like death. Like an animal of some sort was rotting in the woods somewhere. Everyone else said they could smell it too. I didn't think nothing of it. Maybe a dead deer or something that someone shot and couldn't find. It was the end of September, so hunting season had started. I started the fire and didn't think too much of the smell. We all eventually got used to it. We played beer pong and had a generator going to power the cabin. So my friend of mine, Ryan, had been telling me that the girl I had brought with me kept asking shit about me to him, saying how much of a gentleman I was, so I knew that night I was going to be great. Anyways, the fire was dying down, so Ryan was going to get wood with a few buddies of mine. I had them take a radio with them to radio me if they needed help. The fire started getting real low. It had been about 30 minutes since they had left. "Hey, where the fuck you guys at?" I asked over the radio. "Dude, chill, I'm on my way," Ryan responded. They came back later with a ton of wood, got the fire going again, Then eventually it started to get late. People wanted to start going home, so after everyone left, only 8 of us remained. The girl I liked, Sarah, Ryan, David, another guy, and 3 other girls. David, the other guy, and the girls were wasted and were all flirting with each other. I continued to chill at the fire with Sarah and Ryan talking about random shit. It started to get real late. Around 2 a.m. is when the 3 girls, David and the other guy, went to lay down in the cabin. Sarah and I stayed outside and talked for a while. Eventually, we started making out. I stopped when I heard this cracking sound outside. I looked over and could make out a figure walking around near the tree line. "Hey you, what are you doing over there?" I asked. "Dude, chill, I'm on my way." The figure responded. It sounded like Ryan, but I swore Ryan had been in the cabin. Maybe he had walked out when I was occupied, but he didn't make sense. "What?" I asked. "Dude, chill, I'm on my..." It responded again. My hair started to raise up on my neck. "The fuck?" Sarah responded. "Sarah, go inside and wake up everyone," I responded. She didn't hesitate. I walked over to my SUV and popped the trunk and grabbed a AR-15. For some reason I was shaking, and the death smell was back again. "What the fuck?" I whispered to myself, shoving the mag into the rifle and sending a round into the chamber. I walked around the SUV to where I saw the figure in the woods and couldn't see it. About this time, Ryan walked out of the cabin and looked at me like I was stupid. "Dude, why do you have a gun?" he asked. "Were you out in the woods?" I asked him. He told me he had just woken up and had no idea what I was talking about. I told him to take everyone back to their cars and come back with a gun. He got everyone into my SUV and drove off. I sat there by the fire for a while, looking around me. I had a spotlight by my side, the 1 million candle-watt power ones. I couldn't help but think it was someone playing a trick on me, but living 8 miles away from a prison, you can't really be too sure. The death smell was starting to get almost repugnant. I felt almost like gagging. I heard something walking through the woods again. I grabbed the spotlight and stood up. I waited for a moment, then I saw it again. The figure walked out of the woods and stood there looking at me. I flipped on the light at it. Its back was turned towards me, staring into the woods. "Hey, I got a gun. You might want to tell me who the fuck you are before I lay your ass out right now." Not a single word came out of the person's mouth. I started to walk closer. "Dude, why do you have a gun?" the person asked. "Because I stopped mid-sentence. I started to think about what it said and what Ryan said. It was mimicking Ryan. It repeated it again. This time it sounded just like Ryan. I raised the rifle and sighted in on the guy. "Ryan?" I asked. Its neck shifted a bit, then twitched its whole body. It looked unnatural. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but something about the man looked wrong. I heard music playing in the background, and I could see headlights coming through the woods. "Who are you?" I asked. The figure turned around and looked at me. Its facial features were off. It looked like the other guy that was with Ryan, but its voice sounded just like Ryan's, and it stared at me with its mouth gaped open. "Who the fuck are you?" I shouted, flipping my rifle off safety. Something in the fire snapped and made a loud noise, so I flipped around to see what was behind me, then snapped back to where the person was standing. It was gone. "Shit!" I shouted, looking around for him. About this time, Ryan was parking the Suburban and getting out and putting a pistol in his back waistband. "Dude, what's going on?" he asked. I started to fill him in on everything, then asked him if everyone was with him. He told me everyone in the cabin was in that SUV, the other guy, Sarah, and the 3 girls. We sat by the fire and started waiting. The death smell had gone away for the time being. It was around 4 a.m. now. Sunlight should be coming in just a few hours. At that time, the death smell had come back, this time stronger than ever. To the point Ryan gagged and almost threw up. I got up and looked around, waiting to see the figure again. A few moments passed, then I could see something on the ground, coming out of the woods. I turned on my spotlight and shined it at the figure. The man, who I had seen before, was on the ground, rolling around. "What is that?" Ryan asked, pulling his pistol out. We both stared at the man roll around for a good 20 minutes, then stopped and laid there on the ground. The fire outside illuminated the figure through the window on the door. I could see it standing there, twitching. Sunrise started to come. I could see the figure walk away from the cabin. I ran up and opened up the door and walked outside. By this time, the sun was starting to come up, but it was still hard to see anything outside except for the man. The man was walking towards the woods, twitching and shaking. "Hey!" I shouted, drawing my rifle on the man. The figure stopped and looked at me. I fired a round straight into its head. I seen the man drop like a rock on the ground and start twitching. "Fuck you!" I shouted and kept a bead on him, waiting for the twitching to stop. What happened next I couldn't explain. The man stood up and started walking to the woods like nothing happened. I lowered my rifle and watched as he made it to the tree line and turned around and looked at us. I didn't see any wounds from him. Nothing. His face was completely untouched. The death smell went away. I couldn't smell it anymore. The man smiled at us and walked into the woods again. By that time, we ran to the SUV, got in, and got the hell out of Dodge. We never spoke of what happened to anyone in fear they'd think we were mental. I've been back to the place countless times now, but I cannot seem to smell the death smell or see anything unusual anymore. I'm not sure if the thing has gone away or it's moved somewhere else. Who knows?
I'm a state trooper. About 7 years ago, I went out on my usual patrol. Around October, I remember, because it was getting colder out and with Halloween right around the corner. On my usual route, it's pretty peaceful actually, just cruising the back roads, when I get a call from dispatch. A suspicious vehicle parked off one of the main roads. A concerned citizen had spotted it and wanted to make sure nobody was hurt. Drive to the location, which is again off of a main road, but still out in the sticks. I'm talking about how the road isn't even paved. I roll up, flash my lights, and sound my siren. It's just a car on the side of the road. I've seen it before. Could be abandoned. Could be somebody in the woods taking an emergency piss. Get closer, and something just seems off. Been at the job for a while. You start to pick up on certain things that are telltale signs. Car is too nice and new to be abandoned. I approach with my flashlight. It's getting to be around dusk now. I've caught people doing drugs, sleeping, etc., and there is a scramble in the car when I approach. I see no movement. The passenger side door is open, and a clutter of items like shopping bags and a purse trails out of the car into the woods. Follow, announcing loudly that I'm a state trooper and if anyone needs assistance. I'm thinking maybe an EDP, nervous breakdown type situation. Walk into the woods, still calling out while it's getting darker out. After about 20 yards, I see a pair of legs dangling from a tree. Approach cautiously, saying I'm a trooper and I'm here to help. Shine my light up and see a young college-age girl, early 20s, up a tree. Her throat is cut, deep. I can practically see down her neck. Her body is positioned on the higher branches about 5 feet off the ground. Somebody placed her there. Give myself a minute to take that in, take my gun out, and still announce my presence in case there is anyone else around. I'm in DEFCON 1. As far as I'm concerned, the person that did this is still here. Walk back to my car, grab the shotgun, and go back into the woods. Screw this. If there is somebody else hurt or dying out there, I'm not sitting on my ass. Again, yelling out state police, and if anyone is there, make yourself known or ill shoot. Nothing. Back up on its way already, I stay close to the tree line looking for anyone. On my second trip, I notice the trail from the side of the road goes into the woods a bit further. A shoe, a jacket, some jewelry, etc., all leading up to the girl in the tree. Backup arrives, detectives arrive, show them everything I found and give my statements. Concerned citizen gets cleared. Turns out he was in fact just a concerned citizen. No other suspect's case is still unsolved. The part that really fucked with my head is, checking her phone records, she made a call to her parents saying she had car trouble not even 2 hours before that. She parked on the side of the road, and waiting for somebody to pick her up, some stranger stopped, jumped her and killed her and just left right before I got there.
I don't see a lot of weird shit, but when I do, I remember it. State police officer, graveyard shift. Around midnight, I get a report of a 1050 on one of the back roads, and I take the call. Turn off the highway and end up in the middle of nowhere, and the road is turning from paved into dirt. Find the area where dispatch said the wreck was. Nobody is around, no car, no accident, not even a cow. Ask dispatch if they gave me the right address, and they did. Decide to drive another mile or two. Come upon a guy walking into traffic with a gas can. Spotlight him and get out of the vehicle, notifying dispatch. He explains he ran out of gas and his vehicle's on the side of the road just up ahead. Check his ID through dispatch, and he comes out clean. Ask him to get into the back for me, and I'll give him a ride after I check for the previous accident, if any. He obliges, and I get back in. He starts talking about what he does, his family, etc. I explain my family, school, etc. when I catch something red in my headlights. It's the wreck dispatch was talking about. It had gone into a ditch and rolled over after clipping a boulder. Flip my lights on and turn around to ask the guy to stay in the car for a moment. He's not in the back. My face, when? Look around outside with my flashlight. He's not anywhere around. Doors are still locked. Investigate the crash. Notify dispatch for ambulance and tow truck. Look in the cab. The guy on the side of the road was the driver. Died on impact. Nope.avi.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.